Did you have a sticker like that on your car?
Going to call to order the regular February board meeting for the Santa Barbara City College Community College District Board of Trustees. I welcome everyone this evening and or this afternoon. We will now say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would note for the record that all members of the Board of Trustees, including student trustee Kenny Yabeshi, are present for this afternoon's meeting. Before we continue with our normal ordinary agenda, I would like to recognize the tragic loss this week of Adolfo Corral. On Monday morning, when I first heard about the death of Adolfo and his wife, Mary Jane, I didn't know a lot about Adolfo. But after attending a vigil at the accident site on Monday and yesterday's vigil at the campus, I have come to know Adolfo as a wonderful, selfish, and caring Santa Barbara City College employee who left a remarkable legacy and positive impact on so many current and former SBC students. And I learned about his wife, Mary Jane, and her wonderful contribution to La Patera Elementary School in Goleta. And I've learned about their 4 beautiful children, Azalea, Dahlia, Dominic, and Rose. I will never forget Azalea's comments yesterday at the vigil, what courage and strength she demonstrated. Her parents would have been so proud of her. So in honor of Adolfo Corral and his wife, Mary Jane, I ask for a moment of silence. Okay, we will now move to item 2.5, recognitions. And we have 5 people this evening to recognize, only one of whom is present. We have Erica Bloss, 15 years with the college. She is in the she's an allied health nursing lab coordinator. I'll probably pronounce this wrong. Vege Clarice, 10 years as an administrative assistant 2. And 20 years, Angie Esquada, executive assistant to the president and board. Israel Nava, 10 years as a facilities assistant, and Richard Schultz, 15 years as a technology services specialist. We want to recognize all 5 of these individuals for their long and committed service to Santa Barbara City College.
If I may, please allow me to say a few words about Angie. Although I have been in touch with her only for about a couple of months, she has saved my life many times. I would have done a number of missteps had it not been for her. So I'm really grateful that Angie is helping me out during the transition process. And the thing about Angie is that I don't have to second guess what she's going to do. So, I can pretty much trust everything she does. So, and that's a very, very important part of my office. The other important part of my office is that people should come to my office and go out, regardless of whatever issues they're dealing with, feeling good about the visit. And Angie and Palmina both create that environment where people leave the office, even though their needs may not have been fully met, that they leave my office feeling good about the interaction. So thank you very much, Angie. And I know that you have also turned in your retirement letter, effective June 30th.
Yes, I did.
So we'll miss you.
Thank you.
But thank you for 20 years of service.
Thank you.
And I think that I'm confident I can speak on behalf of the Board of Trustees that Angie also serves the board and keeps us usually sitting down there. This is a new thing now, sitting over here, but make sure that we're following the rules and doing what we're supposed to do. But not only that, she spends a good amount of time getting us organized for the meetings, and I know that others here who have served in the chair position appreciate, like I do, all the work that she does for us. Thank you. We'll next move on to public comment. We have one speaker slip tonight. I'd just add that we're going to move item 11.2 up just after public comment, and nicely enough, the public comment we have tonight is on that subject, so I will call Anita Hendricks.
If that presentation isn't going to be too long, I could go after they speak. I think that's more appropriate. I thought the topic would be later in the discussion.
Either way you want to do it.
I'll wait for the presentation. Thank you, that's all right.
Oh, that's fine. We'll do that. And I would ask Vice Chair Haslund if you would like to introduce our next speaker.
I would. Stanley Roden contacted me some time ago and asked if we would consider sponsoring a resolution that would focus on climate change and help the Congress of the United States understand that it really is a climate crisis. Stanley has been a long-time friend and formerly served our community as our district attorney for 8 years, went back into private practice, became utterly bored with that, decided that he wanted to teach, so we hired him to teach here at Santa Barbara City College on a part-time basis. And he also wanted a chance to teach in China, so I arranged for that to happen so that he could teach American constitutional law at Shandong University. Imagine that, teaching American constitutional law to a bunch of Chinese graduate students. It was an interesting experience. Stanley has become an activist on matters such as this related to climate change, and he is here today to speak to the resolution, and I'd like to invite him to the microphone.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you for the nice introduction, Mr. President, members of the board. They asked if I could do this in 10 minutes, and I just had coffee with a lawyer friend of mine. I was telling him, and he said you could find 54 judges in Southern California who would say you couldn't say good morning in 10 minutes, so I'll do my best. I want to talk about the resolution which declares and joins the County of Santa Barbara, and most recently the Isla Vista Community Service District, in declaring an emergency crisis because of what we're going through in climate change, which I'll talk about in a second, and to endorse the concept through a bill pending in the Congress, which is a co-sponsored by Salud Carbajal, our congressman, that would impose a price on carbon and do it in a way that would be incremental and shift the energy supply and uses in this country to a much greener future, and at the same time drive down the temperatures to keep a livable planet. So let me move right through this. This chart comes from MIT. And the button for, there we go. All right. So this chart comes from MIT called the Climate Interactive. It was developed over roughly the last decade or so by people who understand system dynamics. And if you just take one quick look at this, this is the future, what the future looks like in 2100. So many, hopefully, of the students here in your campus right now will see 2100. I know my grandchildren who are a little bit younger than that, hopefully again, will see 2100. We won't, in all probability. This is the future that they face. This is an unlivable planet. Those of you who followed the Washington Post article in December about California and Santa Barbara in particular about climate change saw that the temperatures are actually rising faster in the coastal central areas of California than the rest of the state. So this would be a conservative low number of climate increase for Santa Barbara given those trends. Here we can see coal continue, and this is data all the way up to 2020, which is actual data. This is projected data based on models, which I don't have time to get into. But you can see that the brown line is coal. That continues to rise. You can see the red line of oil peaks out around 2060 and then goes down, but not very much. Natural gas keeps rising, and despite all our efforts, renewables go up, but not enough to make the mix work. So where do we want to go? Well, one of the most important things we can do, say the economists, is to impose a price on carbon, which is reflected in these highlighted 3 dots right here. And what that does then is generate an economy which drives renewable fuels and drives down carbon, drives down oil, drives down natural gas, and drives the temperature down to 2.9 centidegrees. That's the only input I used in this model, and it's not enough to get us to a livable planet by itself. We need to be, as all of you know in this room, either a 2.0 or more preferably 1.5 degrees centigrade temperature rise above pre-industrial times. 2.9 won't cut it, but this is just the input on carbon price. So how would the it's called the Energy Innovation and Carbon Dividend Act that Salud Carbajal has signed on to, how would it work? Fees would be charged on fossil fuels at the source, meaning at the place where it's pumped, at the coal mine, at the natural gas location site. It would be incremental, starting at $15 a metric ton of CO2 equivalent and rising $10 every year. So it's done gradually on purpose so as not to disrupt the economy, but rather to force the economy to start thinking in terms of decarbonization rather than further carbonization. So how does it work mechanically? All the money raised here, save a very, very small percentage, less than 1%, gets returned to households as a dividend to be spent as people see fit. How would this affect your students? Those 18 and under would be given a half share. Those under 18 would be given a half share of the per capita distribution. Those over 18 would be given a full share. So the students, the vast majority of students at this college will benefit from this to meet the rising costs that will occur in the economy slowly over time. There will be a border adjustment, which I can discuss further, to provide equity for the fossil fuel companies and for the economies that rely on exports or imports to make sure we're putting pressure on other countries to impose carbon pricing. There are now roughly 30 countries in the world that have some version of carbon pricing. Some of the regulations that we now have in effect which are not working will be stayed while this program has a chance to take effect and be reviewed 10 years into the legislation. So what are the benefits from this? Well, it's clearly good for people. This dividend factored out to 2050, roughly 30 years from now, would be roughly for a family of 4, 34, 56. For the lowest 3 quintiles of the economy, so the extreme poor, and middle-class people, they will receive more by way of dividend than it will cost them to face the rising costs. What's the effect? The effect will drive down, as I'll show you in 1 minute, carbon emissions by 90% as of 2050 because it's a market-based solution to the problem. 280 million people will be getting dividends and spending it as they see fit. This will spur choice for lower carbon footprint items. Virtually everything in the economy has some footprint of some kind or other. It will spur innovation, it will spur investment at research. So say over 4,400 economists in the country. So this is what you're looking at. If we had the Clean Power Plan, which was enacted in the Obama administration, but which has been scrapped in the current administration, we would still only reduce this emission line by about 3%. If we fully complied with the Paris Agreement, as did the rest of the world, the reduction would only be at the 14% line. This bill, the Carbon Innovation and Energy Innovation Carbon Dividend Act, drives that number down to 90% by 2050. There's no magic here. This is the power of the marketplace doing its thing in the way in which the marketplace is supposed to. Does it benefit people? Does it benefit your students? The people in your community, within your district? Absolutely. Right now, we calculate about 114,000 lives lost to air pollution. We calculate roughly 295,000 lives saved through reduced pollution, principally by driving down the use of coal. Is it good for the economy? Well, I know there's this concern that it will either harm the economy or kill the economy. The contrary is true according to 2 independent studies done, one the REMI study before the bill was introduced in 2018, and another one completed in November 2019 by Columbia University, saying that not only would it generate this much money and that many jobs, but this was too conservative a number. It will generate even more jobs than that in the long term. So what does the future look like to get to a place where your students here today could have a livable planet in the future? This is what it would require, and this is why it's so important to mesh the carbon dividend at the federal level with what you're doing within your sustainability plan by increasing renewables, by increased energy efficiency, both in transportation and building, to electrify both transportation and building, to make a dent on stopping the deforestation, to plant more trees, and to get some control over methane gas and hopefully some carbon removal and sequestration. If so, we could reach this goal. So in a nutshell, the act is only one part of a much bigger part, but your statement is an important one to help lead the country to decarbonize the economy. It's coming. You see it in the insurance companies in which they're pricing policies in the marketplace. You see it in the investment community. BlackRock just decided to not invest in fossil fuel companies any longer. You see it out in the renewable world where the energy for investment is growing. This will spur that by putting more money in the economy and letting the market really decide. So yes, it's federal. Yes, it's not directly linked to your job, but your students are directly linked to your job. They're going to live in this world long after us, and this is an important statement to make. Questions, please?
Can you, there are other agencies in our larger community that have also signed up to this, to do this. Can you help us understand who they are?
Well, on a national scale, all the ski resorts, as you might imagine, all the breweries, a huge number of vintners. The area of the economy that's already decarbonizing, the renewable industry, the growth of capture and storage of energy for later uses, ways in which batteries can be, in terms of research and development, can become more developed. There are 97, currently as of last night, 97 municipal entities across the country have endorsed this, including the city of Los Angeles, county and city of San Francisco, and so forth. There are 3 universities, 9 colleges across the country. I guess what I'm asking is, because the oil well blew out here in '69, I was here, many of you were here as well. Rightly or wrongly, we were called the epicenter of the environmental movement. Well, City College being the first community college in California to endorse a carbon pricing bill would make a huge and valuable statement to the work of getting people to move forward. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, you did.
Sorry.
You also introduced this as a bipartisan matter. How can we, help me understand how Democrats and Republicans can get in the same room and manage to talk to each other?
I ran into a friend of mine who's a neighbor, actually. He is a very, very large grower in the Central Valley. We were talking this morning. We don't agree on much politically. But he raised Devin Nunes's name, the congressperson from Tulare, Fresno. And he was talking about air pollution problems in their area. And I said, you know, I was in his office as part of 1,582 volunteers who came to Washington in June, and I was assigned, along with 5 other people, to go to Devin Nunes's office, and frankly, expected the worst. What I found was his office, the key legislative aide, was incredibly invested in improving air pollution problems in the Central Valley, and particularly in that congressional district. And they were on board with a bill that Nunes was going to co-sponsor, which would replace diesel farm equipment of all kinds, sizes, and whatever, to electrified ones going forward as we phase them out, instead of to either natural gas or gasoline or something else. So there is a common conversation that starts with your grandchildren and also talks about a livable planet for everybody, no matter what your politics are. And so the trick is, can you make that happen without crippling the economy? In fact, can you make that happen by making the economy stronger and better? And the answer is that carbon pricing, now this comes from The Economist, every chairman of the Fed, of the U.S. Federal Reserve Board, starting with Paul Volcker, who just passed away, through Yellen, has supported this, along with many former secretaries in both parties. And lastly, the person who started Citizens Climate Lobby, Marshall Saunders, who passed away in December, said, there is no way that I'm going to push this and have one president enact it as an executive order and have the next president tear it down and ignore it, and so on and so forth, back and forth. So we have the EPA, we have the Clean Water Act, we have the Clean Air Act, because in the Nixon administration, the parties got together and enacted the legislation. So he said this will be done on a bipartisan basis. So it's a long windup to tell you the end of this. There are 535 congressional offices. On one day in June, 12th I think it was, CCL was able to book 529 appointments with 6 people each, going to every congressperson on the Hill who was there. So we only missed 6 out of 535. No other organization that you know or support can do this. Not Planned Parenthood, not the NRA, not doctors, not big pharma, not lawyers, nobody can book. So we have built goodwill. CCL has backed the equivalent of this in the Senate. So the Climate Solutions Caucus just started in the Senate about 3 months ago, and it has attracted Senators Rubio, Graham, and 3 other Republicans, along with 6 Democrats. There are now 120 members of the House Solutions Caucus, of which 47 or 48 are Republicans. So it is a bipartisan effort, and it's not going to get adopted without a bipartisan effort to make that happen. That's a great question. Thank you.
Thank you. And others have questions? So Trustee Haslam, what do you foresee us?
Well,
We're not
first-
here for a decision tonight, but
No.
what do you foresee us doing?
I see this as part of an ongoing conversation. One of the more disappointing elements of putting forth any kind of proposal like this is that at the end of taking a vote of support, it gets put on the shelf and nothing else happens. So I'm eager for us to have, to develop a process by which we carry on the conversation, primarily on campus with our students, our faculty, our staff, so that we come to believe, as I think is right, that this is really our problem. It isn't just our problem, but it is our problem, and we have to make a public statement that says it is ours, and we want to continue looking at it and exploring just how we can be significant players in this process. It is entirely in keeping with the sustainability plan that we enacted in 2014 and have upgraded since, and we approved it again in July of last year. So I think our track record is positive and it's unidirectional, and I want to keep it going.
Should we bring this back for consideration of approval at the next board meeting?
Yeah, and Stan, you had said something about workshops that could be provided to our students, faculty, staff on this campus. Tell us,
Absolutely. Yes.
what would that entail, and how do we operationalize that idea?
Well, one would be right here. A bit much better understanding of how this works, because I think you'll find it from a policymaker standpoint and as a citizen and human being standpoint, very interesting to use to test some of your assumptions and to understand that there are tough choices that need to be made, but that the ultimate goal can be reached if there's the political will to make it happen. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the workshop would focus on the bill itself and show how it works and answer all the good questions I'm sure people have on how the money's collected, how the dividend is dispersed, why is it not in some bureaucracy, why isn't it means tested? I mean, there are answers to all those really very, very good questions. So it would be a good way for people to understand that going forward, we can have clean energy. We just have to pick a path to get there. Carbon pricing is just one of the silver buckshot. It's not a silver bullet. I'm not trying to argue that. It is one of many measures that have to be taken, as I argued here a minute ago, in order to get where we need to be. But one thing's for sure, we need to get where we need to be. So we'd be glad to do that. We could lead the workshop, and I'm having lunch with Adam Green on Monday, and I'd be glad to see if maybe he would partner up with us at CCL and do it jointly and so on. And obviously at no cost, it would be our honor, actually, to do that.
Trustee Croninger.
I just was recalling that when we were listening to the sustainability plan and the accomplishments, and a number of things are mentioned in the resolution, we talked about a focus as well on reducing our own carbon footprint, and I would certainly like to see that as part of the education and the efforts that I know Adam and others are making with our plan. So.
Trustee Parker?
I would love for this to come back for a vote next time. I do fully support the resolution. My Republican friends, when I talk about climate change, it's not that they disagree that the climate is changing. They completely agree with that. But some see it as human-caused and human solution, and others see it as not human-caused and no human solution. And I think that you can still have those discussions even as you move forward. There are so many ways that this is positive for our environment whatever you believe, whatever you foundationally believe. So I think that we can still have a diversity of viewpoints on it, and move forward with this type of resolution and make a difference. And I absolutely agree with these comments about how do we then operationalize it and make sure it's part of our thinking and our planning as we go forward. I think it's clear that it already has been, but that it can be, that we can make it a much more robust conversation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Peter, my only thought would be, because we are a teaching and learning institution, and I love that you're saying, hey, we have to have these conversations, with students, with faculty, and so sort of along, I guess, what Kate's thinking, people think different and so I think if this is not your discipline, so most people, we just take hot showers. And I don't want to stop taking a hot shower. I want the gas to be on. And so when I think carbon, you're thinking gas, oil, coal. And so I can't envision all of a sudden not having my stove and my heater and all these comforts, right? So I think that it's important for us to have a conversation about what this means to our quality of life, and for people to understand if this is not your discipline. You're not a scientist. I'm a reading specialist. I can talk to you hours about literacy and speak all this jargon that you wouldn't understand. And so when I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, I see some of this. I remember talking to folks and saying, okay, well, some of these things were computer simulations that weren't founded necessarily on X data. And so you get into all these conversations, right? And this is just sort of things that you hear about that I won't necessarily engage at a depth of a scientist, because I am not a scientist in this discipline. But I would be interested in our vision statement, we talked about students being able to have these conversations, to sit around a table and to explain their viewpoint to someone that may think different, because especially in California, if you visited the Sierras, my goodness, it's breathtaking. Like you want to have California coastlines looking the way they are, and all our wonderful resources that we have here. So that would be my only thought, that I would love to see this conversation go so that we can see both points of view, so that our students can talk intelligently about it, so that we better understand this.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, I rather think that the vote on the resolution is the least important of what we can do. It's the conversation that gives the thing momentum, and the momentum forward that we are going, in my judgment, we're going to need. So I'm delighted with the possibility of an ongoing conversation about this issue.
Trustee Nelson, you had your hand up.
Yeah. Well, red flag raised, and your presentation, with me anyway, on the issue, your presentation made a lot of sense. The red flag was we could reach this almost impossible goal. There was this huge thing and nothing had planned to do this. So it's almost like if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So I think having 30 days in order to give us time to absorb what's going on here. I have constituents that voted for me that are all over the place in their opinions, but there are people out there and constituents I have that represent all different positions. So I need a little more time before I could endorse it. And I probably won't become a real expert. For that, I have to rely on others. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it very much.
How would we go about arranging a date, or work with Adam on that, or?
Good start, yeah.
Okay.
I think that might be a really good idea. And maybe other faculty would want to participate with the two of you in putting something together. I think it shouldn't be the board that does that, but I'll be a cheerleader. Not a very good one, but I'm a cheerleader.
All right, thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So we have one public speaker, again, Anita Hendricks.
Oh, just
Right down.
right where Stan was standing. Right there.
I never thought I'd be addressing you all, but I just want to say, first of all, that this is really an extraordinary college. And today, I was sitting outside and I was just so taken. What an incredible institution this is. I was like, this is like a private college, in a beautiful setting. Really, a true jewel. And you are one of the most, I think, aren't you probably the top-rated community college in California, maybe amongst those in the United States? So anyway, I have been a student here before, and I'm also right now an adult education student. And I think this is an opportunity for Santa Barbara City College once again to lead. And this declaration of climate emergency is very appropriate. There are other cities. London has declared climate emergency. Ojai declared climate emergency. And there are some who say it's too late, that we've already gone past the threshold. There's not the public will to turn things around, that we are doomed. This presentation here offers some hope. There are, as he showed on the board, many, many problems and many, many solutions. We are in the state of a climate crisis. Our future, our children's future, the young people at this school studying may not live. We may not live. This is very, very serious. We have everybody from Greta Thunberg, who's a high school student, to the Pope declaring climate emergency. I urge you to do everything you can to expand it, to do what he says, yes, and that's very hopeful, but to have a symposium here, a huge gathering where you have top authorities informing people. There's so much to know. There's so many aspects. Probably everybody here with each of your disciplines has something that you could contribute to the overall effort. So I urge you to bring this up, perhaps have your own informative session with this group, but also expand it. This is something our whole community, not just this college, the entire planet is at stake. And thank you very much. I so appreciate you all giving me the wonderful opportunity to be a student at Santa Barbara City College. This is just a wonderful, wonderful institution, and I'm just so taken with it. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Our next item on the agenda is the minutes of our regular meeting of January 23. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting on January 23?
I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of January 23rd, 2020.
Second.
We have a motion by Trustee Gallardo and a second by Trustee Nielsen. Any comment? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Next on the agenda are reports. First one listed is from Patricia Stark, but I understand.
It's okay, I can do a short report.
Okay.
Thank you. I had contacted Robert this morning and asked to be excused because I was gasping for breath with asthma. I'm feeling better. This will be very short. I want to thank you for opening the meeting for my colleague Adolfo. So many of us, I just knew him sitting around a table at committees. What we learned in this past week, his reach was so deep, so far. The way that he touched so many of our students cannot be overstated. And yesterday I sent a message out to my fellow faculty members that we have students in all of our classes that are deeply grieving, and that we should all take a moment of silence or in some way commemorate his legacy in all of our classes as a means of supporting our students. So thank you for that moment, and I just once again wanted to acknowledge him. I also, excuse me, want to acknowledge
my colleague, Cornelia Alsheimer. You are probably aware that our local faculty association is part of the State Faculty Association of California Community Colleges. They give one big award every year, the Fact Activist Award for the faculty member union representatives who've gone above and beyond, and this year the honoree is Cornelia. She will be recognized March 8th in Sacramento. And I just want to say that I think that statewide, there's this tension between academic senates and faculty unions. I won't pretend we don't have our tensions here, but I think that under Cornelia's leadership, because of her extraordinary knowledge, but also willingness to reach out on every issue, I think we've reached a really wonderful accord that's very productive for our faculty and I hope for our students. And then finally, I wanted to point out, after Mr. Roden's presentation, that we forwarded, excuse me, in the strategic directions that are now before you, we added, excuse me, guys, a sixth item that we call to prepare the campus for the impact of climate change. And under that item, we asked to include act upon scientifically credible threats to the physical campus and student health, access, and success, to use the SBCC Sustainability Plan as a guiding document for addressing climate change, to educate students in the SBC community about the threats of climate change, join in existing state mandates and local initiatives to address climate change, and to address climate change in a manner that honors our mission to foster global responsibility and upholds the legacy of Santa Barbara as an environmental leader. This originated in our sciences division. Kristen Snedden, Adam Green, some of our most standout environmental leaders were part of the origin of this. And finally, in a proud mama, proud faculty member way, my older son, Will, who during his junior and senior year of high school at Santa Barbara High spent half of his time as a Santa Barbara City College student, will soon be earning his master's degree in electrical engineering. He's going to be a power engineer. And we spoke this weekend, and Will is now in Portland on a computer figuring out a way to integrate a wind farm in Texas into the power grid. He started getting this interest when he was in science classes at Santa Barbara City College. So part of the solution, got it started here, carried it on because of all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Next on our list of reports is from Associated Students is Alexandra Monte de Oca here? Okay. Then we will move on to classified employees, Liz Auchincloss.
Good afternoon, members of the board, Mr. President. This has been a heck of a sad week. We've lost someone that had stepped up to the plate during a time of turmoil at the college and took on a lot of responsibilities, and now there's a hole in our community because of that. My hope is that we'll find other people that can step up, but this person was really, Adolfo was really irreplaceable. And I wanted to thank the community for all of the all of the events of this week. It's only Thursday, a few days, and especially wanted to thank the people, the staff members that put on yesterday's production, especially Jason Walker and the communications department, the IT department, ESL and EOPS, all of them for putting on the productions, because it's going to take us a long time, I think, to recover. So I wish others will step up and fill in the hole, because it's a big one. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Goswami, I believe you're next.
Good afternoon, members of the board. I think tragedies gives opportunities for institutions to reflect on themselves. And what we saw happen over the last couple of days confirms to me what I always knew SBCC to be, that at the core, it has exceptional people, and that they can do exceptional things. And the way that our group came together, I think if you continue to do that, our future is really bright. I had an opportunity to meet with Senator Hannah-Beth Jackson, and it was a long conversation. We had a 45 minutes worth of conversation with her. And again, the goodwill that exists for the college was very, very clear. And people were, she was very interested in many of the things that we have gone through. And so we set a date, not exactly a date, but a time frame in which I'll go back to her and chat again sometime in about March or April. A couple of other operational matters I want to bring to your attention is that I have started to look at some of the board policies and administrative procedures, and I'm finding inconsistencies, at least from my perspective. So over a period of next 2-3 months, I'll probably make a list of the areas where I'm finding inconsistencies, and as time is appropriate, I'll bring that to your attention in terms of which should get precedence over what, to overcome some of those inconsistencies. Also, beginning to look at data. As you know, efficiency was a significant component of the plan that Dr. Benjamin left with us. So I'm gathering data to see what is feasible in terms of efficiency, and where the most gains can be had, where you're unlikely to have some gains, and realistically how much we can expect from efficiency. So I'm hoping that sometime in March, by the March meeting, just don't hold me to it, but I'll try my best to give you a sense of my analysis in terms of what we can achieve through efficiency by the March board meeting. And finally, I was invited to become a fellow at the UC Davis School of Education, some sort of a wheelhouse fellow, but it was a time commitment of about quite a few days, and it was not going to coincide very well with some of the things we are doing. So I declined, and we might do it at some other time. And that's my report.
Well, congratulations for the honor of being selected. Does anybody have any questions for our president? Okay. Then I think we'll move on to item 5.1, which is mid-year budget update. The board will be presented with a mid-year budget update that contains projected financial results of the unrestricted general fund from June 30, 2020, and a review of the status of budget assumptions from the 1920 adopted budget. Looks like James will be making that presentation.
Stay. There we go. All right. Good evening, members of the board. Dr. Goswami. So the file we have here is essentially a look at what the budget's going to look like for the end of the year, kind of looking at the mid-year. We've updated the file to include our adjustments in our reduced assumptions in our non-resident tuition, and a few other adjustments throughout, but it's just to give us a good idea of about where we're going to look, what it's going to look like. The deficit has increased to about a $4.3 million deficit. So So that's really what we have. Do we have any questions?
Is there a primary reason for the increase of about $1 million? Is it $1 million or more like
Little less.
800,000, 700,000? Can't do my.
1.1 about. So the primary reason is a reduced revenue in our non-resident tuition area. We had hoped to grow in the international students, and that really hasn't happened. Unfortunately, the circumstances have changed, so those numbers are coming in significantly lower than we had planned.
I guess we'll hear about that more in our next, next agenda item, but that would be the primary reason for the increase in the deficit.
Yes,
Yeah.
pretty much close to $1 million is non-resident, no. Of the $1 million, probably 80% is international students, and about 20% is out-of-state non-resident.
Were we supposed to be hearing from the state about mid-February, and are we close enough to mid-February to expect to hear from them?
They are planning on releasing budget numbers with the P1 apportionment numbers, so we should get a better update with that. That typically comes out around the 19th of February. We had been hoping that it would come out earlier, but it hasn't come out yet. So I keep checking my email first thing every morning, hoping for new news.
Are there any rumors that might help us over this particular $1 million additional deficit?
No, nothing, no rumors, nothing we know. We're just, everyone's waiting for rates to come out on the funding formula.
Thank you.
Trustee Croninger.
I was hoping that you could talk a little bit about the comparison between the mid-year budget projection and then the assumptions chart that you have, because adding up the assumptions chart, there is a bigger drop in revenue or increase in expenditures, as the case may be, than we show in the projected budget. And I understand that at least a significant part of that represents savings in other areas, which is not on our assumption chart. So could you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, so the assumptions, we tried to keep that with what the assumptions were in our budget, just to say this is what our assumptions were, this is where we're at with those. The projection is more of a look at all of the different factors. There's a whole lot of different accounts. One other difference, there's some savings in some of our salary accounts. Those are coming in lower than were in the budget. Another one is STRS. Every year we get an unknown refund from the previous year. So that's never in the budget. That has come in at this point. It was about $525,000 this year.
From where?
From STRS.
Okay.
So we contribute at the rate that they give us. They go back and recalculate after the whole year is done, and they say, okay, this is the amount that everybody contributed in excess of what was needed, and they give us a refund.
Does that
for
work
those.
the other way when?
No.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Well, from my point of view, just for future reference, I think this is really helpful to see how budget assumptions have changed. But salaries are a budget assumption, we just don't lay them out. And so I would say put in the other news, put in the good news that we've saved as well, as we talk about these adjustments. So.
Trustee Parker.
Thank you, and I'll echo with Trustee Croninger that this layout was really helpful. And I'll just note, obviously, we've been expecting the undesignated reserve to drop, but just seeing the way it tracks over the past 3 years at this point is alarming as a trustee. And I appreciate that the board designated reserve is currently holding, but clearly we need to do something or we are going to be cutting into the board designated reserve soon. So I'm just, for the benefit of the public, just know that we are all looking at that closely and monitoring that and going to be making changes in the future.
Anyone else? Okay. Are you also going to address the next item on enrollment?
That one's not me.
Okay, we'll move to item 5.2, the spring 2020 credit enrollment update. Good evening.
Good evening. Oh, I made the crucial error of touching the microphone.
Speak fast.
I'm going to speak tall. So I have an update on our spring enrollment for 2020 and a comparison to this point last year. In this screen right now, I'm not showing you the note that's at the bottom of this, which reminds you that enrollment data is something that we're aggregating and collecting all the way through a semester. And so this is point-in-time data that looks at our census date, that very first census date. And so that's approximately 2 weeks into the longer semester. And then we're also collecting information from our dual enrollment, which is a much slower process, and that kind of trickles in over time. And we also have our late start enrollment classes. So this is generally always the most frightening picture of enrollment data. Me adding that qualifier on that shouldn't suggest that this isn't actually pretty significant enrollment challenges that I'm presenting for you tonight. So as you understand from James, we're already working to work through the loss of revenue that we see in that downturn in international enrollment. We've talked to you before about some of those challenges. On an international scene, it's becoming more difficult to secure visas. There are a number of issues. Also, at the beginning of this semester, we had an international conflict in Iran that was significant. We had the beginning of some concerns about health internationally. And so I think there are parents across the world who kept students home. So we're seeing some of those impacts on the international level. A little closer to home, we're continuing to see some of the benefits of a really strong economy. So we're seeing a downturn in some of our career technical courses. We're working through that with kind of improved program development. The culinary program's just working through a bunch of new curriculum, for example, that they'll be rolling out over time. So there are things that are happening that are kind of across the spectrum of what impacts our enrollment, but right now we're kind of crucially focused on where students are not, which appears to be somewhat here.
Question, Trustee Parker?
How does this compare with the projections from the projected budget? I don't know if that's a two-person answer there.
Well, we can bring James down to talk about how he's working that in. We had not done any kind of pie-in-the-sky enrollment projections. We were hoping for a 1% increase. But we've also been navigating potential loss of enrollment over this time period. So in the credit revenue, the other thing, and I recently was talking to Dr. Goswami about this as he comes into California in the midst of AB 705, it was really difficult for districts to predict what the impact would be of that significant reduction in developmental ed courses in English and mathematics in particular. We're also working through some of the curricular changes that'll be happening in ESL. So we are offering courses for the same number of students ostensibly, but they're coming in mostly at college level, and we're working through our first semester of data about what those success rates have looked like for students who have done the self-placement, multiple measures placement into math and English. And so one of the pieces the state didn't really help us account for in the economics of the new student-centered funding formula is what some of that impact would be of undoing 30 years of funding below college level courses and then asking us to really reduce what that looks like. It's likely in the long term better for students. It will reduce their time to degree. It will move students through more effectively. We'll grow in our support abilities for those students. But in the short term, we are technically offering fewer seats in a longer pathway. And so there is an economic impact to that we're just beginning to really understand.
Anybody else?
I was going to add something to Trustee Parker. Okay. On the previous slide, on the assumptions, I think for the year, for international student, it'll be $1.3 million less revenue, and for out-of-state it'll be about $216,000.
Could you repeat the state part?
Out of state will be $216,000.
Right,
less.
and, okay, and then we don't have a number for the credit. We predicted a decline of 1%? And I don't know if it's too soon. I mean, are you working anything in that, James?
What are we talking about here?
Under
The
the
impact of-
assumptions, the financial impact, I think that's
Yes,
what Kate was asking about.
The 1% decline, that'll have to be averaged out over a period of 3 years to see ultimately what the impact is going to be. And so that is not going to be very much.
Trustee Abood.
Excuse me. I think it's just very obvious from this worksheet and the previous budget that enrollment is why our budget is in a mess. And, you know, I think we've found all the savings we can in the budget on expenses. I'm not willing to go to layoffs at all. We need to grow enrollment, and it needs to either be not replacing, but we had the consultant here on the funding formula a few months ago where he showed, if you have, instead of 500 non-Pell Grant students, you had 500 Pell Grant students, keep enrollment the same, that's $1 million extra. If we just serve more low-income students, I'd like to see how we can do that. Out-of-state students don't have the same issues with getting a visa to come here, and so that's another area where we can easily patch up this budget, especially when our numbers are so much lower than they used to be. We wouldn't be doing much by bringing them back up. But at the end of the day, I see enrollment as the path out of this budget deficit. It's not cutting expenses.
So,
Trustee Gallardo.
thank you, Trustee Miller. He told me that he felt like he would not see my hand. I'm pretty sure I'd probably talk if he didn't see my hand. Strategy. So I listened to the webinar yesterday on dual enrollment from the Wheelhouse from UC Davis. So maybe next time but I feel like you're already kind of on it, Dr. Goswami, with understanding dual enrollment. I agree with Jonathan with my heart and my passion for dual enrollment is it's a win-win for our local economy, for our 60% of Hispanic, Latino, first-gen socioeconomic students in our local, at least this local district, and then Carpinteria is really no different. So I guess for this board, we need to start getting to the point of strategy because all of these things are working in tandem in enrollment, in college going, and the research with our high school kids taking 2-3 courses and the completion rates and the dual credit for IGETC. So I think that we're just long overdue now. I know Santa Barbara Unified has had their share of issues and they're still working through them. Dr. Benjamin definitely tried to reach out to them and we just weren't able to. So they're going to hire a new superintendent here pretty soon. So I think that it's time to start talking with our partners and start getting some of these strategies, especially for our CCAP courses, which are college and career pathways, access pathway courses with our academies, CTE. We're always going to have our advanced students taking our courses outside, but the strategy of increasing enrollment with our local students is just like a no-brainer. I've been in touch with them, and I think that I'm done. Let's just get this on the agenda, and hopefully, I know Dr. Goswami is motivated, and you have the background to be able to work through these CCAP courses and help Santa Barbara Unified. So hopefully, when they get a superintendent, maybe we can just schedule the meeting, and then let's just start working with Laura Capps and then get that on their agenda when they get on board. But we have a lot of momentum with the Promise. It's just a no-brainer. We're a Hispanic serving institution. Those kids are there. And it's not a criticism on the college. My goodness, Melissa Moreno's office, you guys have been phenomenal. Dr. Benjamin truly tried to address this since last spring. She's been trying to address it. And then last question, first enrollment, summer 1-2, when are those schedules coming out for the parents that are trying to plan?
Those will be coming out shortly. They'll be out in April.
April, oh good, okay, because there's anxious.
We're working right now to do last adjustment and fine tuning.
Okay, so they can start registering for that. I think I mentioned that our local high school is not offering some AP courses in the sciences, and so those
I
kids
have
are.
a working list of all the classes high school people would ever want.
I love
And
it.
And then we funnel that into what we can offer.
You're amazing.
Well, no, if I pulled it off, I'd be amazing.
Okay. Well,
We do have a lot of the tools that we're working.
I will text those moms and tell them, April.
Any other comments, questions?
Yeah, kind
Trustee
of
Nielsen.
a question I guess I need some clarity on. When we don't have the remedial classes and the students are, the assumption is that they all take like college level the first year, English 101 or whatever it is. And now, but you said that affected our enrollment in the classes. I thought those students that were going to be in, I guess I thought kind of wrong, that the students that were going to take the remedial classes would be in the regular classes. Did you observe that they're not enrolling, or what's going on?
So we're one semester into the whole
Yeah.
function of this. So it's difficult to say anything that looks definitive. The original thinking behind the folks who do this research, the state movement, the push, the legislation is exactly what you said. If what we do is ask students to be placed into college-level coursework, those numbers shouldn't have shifted. We offered far more English offerings, far more math offerings. The faculty designed support courses. We increased our support network for this. But it hasn't yet appeared to be a one-to-one movement out of, in English, 4 levels of classes students might have taken, collapsed up into a network system that was going to house and support those students appropriately. So some students may have postponed enrollment, worried about taking those classes. Some students started that and decided that they weren't quite ready. We haven't eliminated all of the remedial courses, but the schedule has been severely truncated and the offerings are very limited. And the faculty are working through with their chairs and deans an assessment of what do we do next? What does this look like? And all of these things have relationships back. So when we think about what our work is with the high schools, how we make sure that students, families, faculty are really thinking through what it means to lay into your college ready to do that work. Dual enrollment plays a role in that. Preparation plays a role in that. So we're in the midst of a massive experiment. Frankly, one that is a little bit frightening for students we know needed additional support before they came here. And so we're working through what that's like. And it's been difficult. It's been hard for the faculty. It's been hard for students.
So, Trustee Nielsen, one of the things is that many students, even though they might be academically deficient in certain areas, they know that I'm not ready for college algebra. So even though they have a license to sit in college algebra, they will not sign up for college algebra because they know in their own minds they're not ready for it. So one of the things this AB 705 might do is that a lot of students may decide not to come to college because clearly they know that I needed help in doing something with math, I needed something with English, and now I will not be able to get it. So there is an element of that happening, and that we'll find out in about 2 years in terms of participation rate in colleges among the students with lower GPAs.
Trustee Croninger.
I am 100% behind what Veronica was talking about in terms of maximizing our enrollment. I think we're a terrific choice for our high school kids. But I think we also have to remember when we're talking strategic planning that the most important thing that Eloy said to us when he was here is that demographic is shrinking. It's not coming back. And so we should maximize what we have, but I don't think we can rely upon it as necessarily greatly increasing our enrollment. I think these are links that we have to have and we have to do better. But we should look more broadly to that. I think we should look to some of the adults in our community who need or could benefit from our classes, the pre-promise people. I think that we should be considering contract classes with local or even national companies who need services that we could provide. This is something that College of the Canyons is fabulous at. And their CEO has said, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, this is where it is. This is where your enrollment is going to be. It's not going to be the traditional enrollment. So I think we have to think in some of those terms when we get to strategic discussions.
So I've heard a number of ideas and thoughts, concerns that I don't find myself in disagreement with anything I've heard. We have to be attacking at all levels, I think. But for me, when I look at $1.3 million, because of a decline in international students, it causes me to wonder how much extra investment we need to make. All of these things require to some degree an investment, but I really wonder how much investment we need to make to increase our international student enrollment, despite the obstacles we're facing with the current international climate and climate in Washington. I think there are students out there. There are other Kenny Abeshis who want to come here, and we need to find them to the best we can. Any other comments? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So next is item 6, our consent agenda. And our consent agenda tonight includes items 7.1 through 7.4, 8.2 and 8.3, and 9.1 through 9.4. Does anybody wish to remove any of those items from the consent agenda?
So you're including 8.1 in the consent?
Well, I have a habit of missing, yes, I missed 8.1. It should be 8.1 through 8.3.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification.
I move the consent agenda.
May I make a comment?
Absolutely.
On the personal agenda, item 7.1, we do have Adolfo's, so we need to take that name out as part of the approval process.
Okay.
With that said correction, do we have a second then for the motion?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So there's a motion by Trustee Haslam, a second by Trustee Parker to pass the consent agenda, and the motion was approved by a unanimous vote.
And did we want to take up 7.1? Oh, okay, I thought you had asked.
We just removed the item, one item, one name from that.
Okay.
So it's 10.1 then.
So next agenda item is 10.1, the non-resident tuition fee that we heard about at our last meeting. We had a discussion about it at our last meeting, and tonight it's up for action. There's a recommendation to the Board of Trustees to approve the resolution on non-resident tuition fee. And do we have a presentation?
No, we don't have a presentation.
Okay.
You have all the materials from last time,
Okay.
so this is basically the your opportunity to think about it and then vote on it.
Well, do we have a motion to approve it?
I'll move approval of Resolution 5, 2019-20, 2020, 2021. Whoa, non-resident tuition fee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Hearing none,
Wait a minute.
as a resolution, there will be a roll call vote. Yes, Trustee Nelson.
Yeah, just a comment, not a criticism, and I am in favor of this, but when you look at it, if you look at this from the outside, and you say, you're good, we're sitting here talking about, we've got declining foreign student enrollment, and we're sitting here approving an increase in the price at the same time. Well, there's a logic to what we're doing here. We're not, if you live by price, you'll die by price. We have a superior product here. We never were the least expensive for it, and we had plenty of enrollment to the point where we had community members telling us we had too many foreign students here, absorbing our housing and whatever. And those people are still out there, and they're still rightfully concerned. I believe, and I'm for this measure, because I don't think that price is the issue. And we're not uncompetitive, especially when you look at the quality of the product that we deliver. And we need them to come here, but I don't think we can buy it. Okay, that was my comment.
Okay. So I recall, I believe it was Dr. Goswami who told us, I think he used the economic term, it's inelastic, that raising tuition, at least modest amounts, has not been shown to, for out-of-state students, international students, has not been shown to affect attracting those students. So I'm also comfortable with the numbers that we have.
Yeah, the number is really just an adjustment for costs.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's not like asking for more profit.
Any other comment?
Is it clear that the fee is per unit? Or we're saying the tuition fee?
They're all per unit.
Yeah.
They're all per unit.
Right.
Yeah.
It's clear.
Okay.
So I asked our secretary to call the roll.
Student trustee Igbechi?
Aye.
Trustee Gallardo?
Aye.
Trustee Nielsen?
Aye.
Trustee Hasland?
Aye.
Trustee Abud?
Aye.
Trustee Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Parker?
Aye.
Trustee Croninger?
Aye.
So the motion passes.
It's 11.1.
Our next item is 11.1.
Sorry, 10.2.
10.2, did I miss that? Adjustments to the budget. And it's an action item. It's recommended the Board of Trustees approve Resolution Number 6, 2019-20, adjustments to the budget.
I move approval.
Second.
And I can provide a little bit of explanation, and then if you need more explanation, I'll ask James or
Okay.
Lindsay to come down. So what you have is a summary document that is page 2 of 9. So that basically says in the object code what we have moved from from where to where. And then what we have tried to do on the subsequent pages is to explain what kind of changed. In many cases, the net effect is 0 because we just moved from one side to the other side. But in some cases, it has gone up, in some cases, it's gone down. So that's basically the adjustments we're asking for.
Any questions or comments?
Thank you for, everything's very linear tonight.
That's good, right?
Yes.
Yes. So, hearing no other questions or comments, I ask the Secretary to call the roll.
Student trustee Igbechi?
Aye.
Trustee Hasland?
Aye.
Trustee Miller?
Aye.
Trustee Nelson?
Aye.
Trustee Croninger?
Aye.
Trustee Parker?
Aye.
Trustee Gallardo?
Aye.
Trustee Abud?
Aye.
So the motion passes unanimously. Now we will move to item 11.1, which is It's not an action item tonight, well, I'll explain, but the motion to approve resolution limiting campaign contributions, and this is a resolution that was originally put forward to us by trustee Croninger at our last meeting, and during our discussion at the last meeting, there were some questions raised about the legality of some of the aspects of what were proposed in the resolution. So as a result of that, Dr. Goswami engaged a law firm that is experienced in campaign finance matters. We've consulted with that law firm and learned, number one, that we cannot limit the amount of individual contributions, but there are constitutional limitations on how low a limitation is permissible. I think I misstated that. We can limit the amount of individual contributions, but there are limitations on what that number might be that I think requires us to have further discussions with the lawyer. It wasn't really spelled out. We've talked about, I think the original motion was $200, and I'm, at least from my reading of the memorandum, that probably wouldn't pass muster, but something more than that would. We just need further examination of that issue. Number two, we were told that we cannot limit the amount a candidate contributes to his or her campaign. And three, we cannot impose an overall expenditure limit. There are other issues that were not addressed. So Marcia Croninger and I have agreed we should defer consideration until we have a chance to consult more with the lawyer. For example, we are interested in to what extent the college might be able to pay for the candidate statements for all candidates as a means to lessen the financial burden of running for office. So open it up to discussions or questions, but that's basically the status of where we are, and maybe ask Trustee Croninger if she has anything to add to what I've explained.
Well, I think it will be useful to have further discussion with the lawyers about some of the options, and then bring it back to the board for the board's discussion and consensus or decision on what we would like to do. So my question is, I think Robert's interested in participating. I certainly am in that discussion. And is there someone else? We can go to 3 members of the board to do that. So is there anyone else who wishes to join us?
I'm interested. I think, I'm kind of for this, but we can't vote on it or do anything until we can get the wording at least mostly correct.
Right.
And we have too many unanswered questions, so if I could be of help, I definitely have the interest.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
And since we have discussed this in public, what I'll do is now I'll include the legal opinion as part of the minutes for today's board meeting.
Okay, very good.
That was shared to the board.
Thank you.
President Miller,
Yes,
if I
Trustee
just may
Parker.
comment on it. I love the idea of being able to limit spending on a race. I wish that we could do that in every race. My concern now, though, and after getting the legal opinion, is really, especially if you can't limit somebody from spending on their own campaign, and there's no upper limit on expenditures in general. I did check with a couple of outside organizations, and yes, if you were endorsed by them, they could absolutely contribute to a PAC. And so I thought about it, and I'm like, ultimately, the person that this harms the most is the low-income candidate that is not endorsed by a major organization, because they're the ones that are going to struggle getting, they don't have their own money, maybe they're not endorsed by the Dems or the Republicans or the unions, and incumbents have the benefit, strong benefit of incumbency. So that's what is running through my brain, whatever ends up coming forward. I want to be sure that we are being equitable and that we are being fair to candidates that don't have the advantages of some people. And so I am particularly interested in the idea of paying for candidate statements. I know obviously other districts do that, and I think that that would be a good step forward for us.
Unfortunately, a number of the concerns that you just raised, I share with you, but it's the state of our law in this country that has evolved since the 1970s, and in which the United States Supreme Court has declared repeatedly that almost any kind of infringement or limitation on campaign finances is a violation of the First Amendment. I think, my own personal opinion, they've been wrong on a number of occasions, but it is the state of the law, so that's what we have to deal with. So to the extent we can have what is effectively public financing by even a modest amount by covering the candidate statements, I also agree with that idea. Trustee Nelson.
I agree with Trustee Parker's, what she said. But I think that we need to look at other areas of it too, and I have a few questions that I have not been able to discover answers to yet, and that's why I was so eager to volunteer for the committee, which hopefully we can find some ways. This is supposed to be a nonpartisan, non-political board, and yet we have candidates, getting money from a political party, and I don't know, there's pros and cons to that. There's arguments on both ways. I have questions in that regard and what else we could possibly do. Like Jonathan said at the last meeting, he didn't do a statement, a candidate statement, because they wanted $1,000. I recall I went into the office when I ran before you, and they said, "Oh, you can do this, and it's $1,000." And I was there on the afternoon of the deadline day. Finally I decided to do it, and I went in there, and I said, "No, I'm not going to spend $1,000 for this. We'll see." And so I opted not to do it, and I didn't go and get money from anybody. I just spent about $900 out of my pocket on everything but that candidate statement, and I had a competitor. I had to run for it, and somehow I managed to win, and I'm still here, at least for another year. With the amounts of money I saw, like in Trustee Croninger's last campaign, and all that effort, that's just almost ridiculous. But is that what the world's really come to? And if we do nothing, maybe we're endorsing that it keeps going that way. So I really feel strongly that we need to do something. This is one thing, maybe there's a resolution we can do to show interest or other steps we can take. But I really think that the issue needs to be addressed. Okay, that was just my comments, and I'm anxious to learn more and get my questions answered.
Okay. Any other comments? Trustee Abboud.
I just wanted to support everything Trustee Parker said. I wouldn't want us to create a situation where only wealthy people could be successful candidates for the Board of Trustees.
I would say the hope is that the situation is before us, and that we're trying to do our best to level that playing field, not make it worse.
Okay. We'll move on to item 11.
Do you need a motion to table this since it's for action, or?
It's not, well,
There's no motion on the table.
It's action, oh, it just says action, discussion, second. You just wrote everything down
So
in there.
basically, I'm taking it as a direction to me to arrange for a meeting.
Right, to do
for-
something
to-
else.
to-
I got it.
yes.
That's smart, comma, so you're open to do whichever.
So our next item is 11.3, approval of changes to Board Policy 1200 on the mission. I would just note that this This is on for action, it'll be our second reading. This document was presented to the Board of Trustees for review and discussion on January 23. The policy was presented to BPAP on February 7, 2020, and approved, and the policy is now being brought back to the Board of Trustees for final approval.
For inclusion into BP 1200.
For inclusion into BP 1200, yes, thank you.
And there are no changes.
There has been no change.
No changes. Do I hear a motion for approval?
I move approval, unless somebody else would like to.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. So trustee Haslam has moved to approve. Trustee Parker has seconded. Any comment? Trustee Nielsen?
Yeah, I have a suggestion. In the body here, there's some bullet points. It's not up on the screen at the moment. It's policies, practices, and programs, and the next bulleted point is shared governance, is how it starts. The word, I take exception to the word shared. It's common, I see it commonly used almost interchangeably with participatory governance, and the definitions of the two terms are not identical, and participatory is much more accurate, and as an educational institution, we should use the correct word. This, basically goes into a policy.
Those are some of the inconsistencies that I've seen at various places. So if you look through our board policies, in some place we talk about participatory governance, in other places we talk about shared governance. So there are a number of those things now that happen over time. So we'll work through it. We will clean it up at some point in time.
We can't just make a decision to change that one word and then I'm happy.
You're free to make a motion. That I understand.
Oh, I'd like to make a motion to change one word.
Before you do that, can I just comment that what we're doing tonight is adding in the language that we approved last time, and that the language you're talking about is in a different section.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I was inept and didn't pick it up, but it stood out to me after I went through the whole thing. Maybe because I didn't see it the first time, or it didn't pop out at me, maybe I'm not entitled to say anything, but I felt like it's a responsible thing to do.
Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but it would seem like the procedure at this point would be to vote on the addition of the language, and then we could come back to your motion.
Right.
Okay.
So.
And the other thing is, I don't know if I would have to take it back to BBAP.
I was going to say that.
For one
I would
word?
have to go back to BBAP.
Okay, so it goes
'Cause I
back
have
to
get the-
BPAP.
Well, that's why the suggestion that you approve it the way it is now, and then I take it back to BBAP and bring it back
Well-
forward. Yep.
But before that, we're going to drop all of them at Adobe and do a search word for shared governance and particular, and then they'll all come up, because Dr. Goswami clearly did that already.
We will do that.
Okay, so we have a motion, it's been seconded to add the language that happens to be in green in the draft that I have that's been approved by this board once and by BPAP, and it's been seconded. Is there any discussion on that, adding that in to 1200? If not, I would call a vote. Is that a roll call vote?
No, it's
No.
just a vote.
Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. So now I'll turn back to trustee Nielsen and ask what he would like to do with his concern about the language in other parts of 1200s.
I think that one word needs to be changed, and it's real simple. I'm just saying one word, but there is a difference.
So trustee Nielsen, I think from a operational perspective, what you're suggesting is that we amend BP 1200 in that particular section by changing some words. So I think that request will go to BPAP now.
Okay.
And it will come back through the BPAP process.
Sorry about the delay.
No, it's not, but thanks for bringing it up. So it's going to go as a proposed amendment to BP 1200. and then they can discuss and
Would it be helpful to ask BPAP to look through all of our policies? But I think that can be done
Look what I started, I'm sorry.
with the help of computer technology to identify
I
where
can help you.
those terms are.
it is not simply a matter of finding a particular word. When I talk about inconsistencies, there is clearly a difference of what the intent that you can surmise from BP versus what it actually shows up in AP. So it requires a little bit more careful reading. So I'm thinking about how best to, make it happen.
Yeah.
It certainly has to go through the BPAP process. So they are more of a process-oriented body. So who does the research part, I'm still trying to figure out. So in a few months, we'll figure it out as to how best to accomplish that.
Good enough.
So,
Okay.
okay.
And she's like, and I'll be retired, so good luck.
So are you satisfied then, or do you want to make a motion? You were,
Yeah, he's good.
Well,
if so, tell us the motion.
You move to amend
I
the
move to
language.
amend the, what is the number of this policy?
It's
BP 1200, for the change of one word, which is shared, and the phrase is shared governance, and to change that one word to participatory governance.
Is there a second?
The second.
Okay, the motion has been made by trustee Nielsen to change the word shared in BP 1200 to participatory, and it's been seconded by trustee Gallardo. Is there discussion?
Just to be clear that the consequence of our action will be to forward that to BPAP. Yes. Okay.
Yep. Good.
Trustee Cronin.
And I would just mention that I believe that that is the correct statutory term, participatory, in the statute, so.
Any other comments or discussion?
I think we should vote.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
So with our new mission statement, now that's going to kick into effect the revision of other plans and stuff. Patricia mentioned earlier the global responsibility. We no longer have that in our mission. That was tied to the climate change and the sustainability plan. And so, anyway, that's, global is no longer our mission.
It's enough.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 11.4, which is report from board members. I guess I'll just start down at the, on my right with trustee Croninger. Ask if you have anything to report.
Well, a number of us have talked about how difficult this week has been, and looking forward, how we are going to miss our colleague. I did not know Adolfo Corral personally, but I feel like I know him now from our vigil. And as Patricia said, it's a profound, profound loss for our community, our college. And it was a deeply important and moving thing to be there at the vigil. So that's my comment.
Trustee Abu.
I want to echo that. I only met him once, Adolfo, but thank you for everybody who organized the events. I went to the one in Goleta and one on campus. And yeah, just like Marcia said, I feel like I know him better because of what was said. In terms of my personal update for legislative, I went to the conference feels like it was a month ago, it's 2 weeks ago. The main point of our advocacy that day on Monday, and I visited with Assemblymember Monique Limon's office, was the per-student funding for community colleges. I'll just read this chart, which is UC students per-student funding is $33,000, CSU is $18,000, K through 12 is $12,000, but community college is $8,000. So we get underfunded compared to all the other education systems in the state. And that was the main focus of our advocacy. And then another one, which we've spoken about here before, it was last year's focus more, is the Cal Grant, also financial aid, mainly goes to the UC students to pay their $12,000 tuition, which is great because I benefited from that. I had the full Cal Grant to not have to pay tuition, but that our students are the lower income students and they're not getting the same kind of financial benefit from the state as the other institutions are. So that was the focus of our legislative advocacy at the conference with the league a couple weeks ago.
Thank you. Interesting. Trustee Parker.
And I don't have anything to add.
Okay. I just want to add one thing about tragic death of Adolfo and Mary Jane. That is, I first learned about this Monday morning when I learned that there had been an accident just a few blocks from my house. In a location that I know very well. I walked there, I rode my bike there. It caused me to walk over. The police were still there, analyzing the accident site. I had a conversation with the police about what happened, which I don't think is appropriate for me to go into. But all I could think about, before I heard more about Adolfo, was two people, a couple in their 40s, out on a sunny Sunday afternoon, to have their life suddenly and without warning end is just beyond anything I can comprehend. And then hearing more about Adolfo and his family is just, it's been an emotional, difficult week for everybody, particularly those who knew and worked with him and were close to him, which I was not. But I felt it was a privilege to learn about him and hear about how he touched so many people in a funny and genuine way. The guy must have been a riot to be around, I must say, from hearing everything I heard yesterday. So that's my only comment.
I have nothing to add to what has been said. The sadness accompanies tragedy. If that tragedy can bring us together, I mean, it sort of is a major reminder that we are a community, and we function best when we remember that.
I told Luce that when I saw her email, I just got on the phone and called our friends in student services, and their phones were ringing and everybody's phone was ringing, and I was like, what is she talking about? So it's shock. Adolfo and I worked together in student services, and then transitioned into this role. He's just a great guy. I think it's admirable that for his children to know that when he wasn't with his family, he was spending his time here. And I think we were very fortunate to have such a positive, dedicated person that truly had always something really great to say as a colleague, and then even transition into this role. You know, board members, we hear all, and he was just a good guy. He honored his wife, and he was a family man. And he elevated and talked about his family as proudly as he talked about the cause here at the college. And so my heart goes out to his children, which is the first thing I don't know where Dr. Goswami was, but Dr. Goswami, the children, and he's like, I know. And so I thank you for being on it. And I stopped by campus on Monday, and I think we have a lot of friends. Santa Barbara City College is a family, and that's what I felt when I walked on campus, because these are our friends, these are our neighbors. And when you work this many hours with people, goodness, how do you how do you not act like a family? And we truly act like a real family. So I pray for his children and his family, and I just know they have a Father in heaven that is watching over them, and they'll be covered.
Thank you. Trustee Nielsen.
I don't have anything serious to discuss, but I did have an interesting evening last Sunday, and there was an event sponsored by a professor at UCSB, and it was held in an empty front store in Isla Vista, and the Chancellor Henry Yang was there and his wife, and there was only maybe 30, 35 people around. And we had a collection of 3 jazz musicians and a vocalist. And they did this last year too. And the music was just so incredible because all these people were very professional, very experienced, even though they don't regularly perform together. It was really a wonderful, brief evening, and good conversation, and a very life-enriching experience. So the sad part is that it was Sunday night, and the ambulances were going the other direction and passed us on the freeway on our way out there. And I think it goes to show, in my mind, it's like, okay, we all have a short time and don't really know when our time's up, but we make the best out of it and we live, and life will go on without us, as so many. I'm getting old enough now, I see the front lines falling, or I've already seen it, and now I am the front line, depending on how you look at it. It makes you think about your life and what you're doing with it and how you're spending your time and why do you do this and not do that, and just to think about that. That's all I had to say, and stop and smell the roses when you can, because you might not get another chance.
Thank you. So, Trustee Abeshi, I've heard a couple of rumors about you. One is that you have accepted a position with Microsoft in Seattle.
All right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I've heard another rumor about you, that you won't be going there by yourself.
Yeah, that's true.
That you are now engaged to be married.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Do we need a motion to approve that last part?
The last part? Someone make a motion? Not yet. But I just want to thank everyone. It's been a huge experience learning here, going to school here. It's been like a privilege coming from Africa and just coming here and learning so much. And Dean was my computer science teacher, and he was always encouraging and telling me, you can do this, it's not that hard. And he was so passionate about what he teaches. And I think just from that passion and see how happy he was teaching computer science and telling us how wonderful this thing is, I just wanted to learn so much. And it's been so great meeting so many wonderful people here, including Adolfo. Adolfo was a mentor to me. He was always sending me links to internships and telling me, apply to this and apply to that. I'll tell him, I'm an international student, I don't qualify to this. He'll be like, apply, don't arrest you for applying. And he was just so full of energy, asking me what classes I was taking. And when I'm graduating, he was like, are you taking this class? Are you taking this class? I was like, yeah, I'm going to take the class. Like, you have to leave here. There's so much opportunity outside this school. You have to take your classes and leave. And it's just so sad what happened. When I heard of it, I couldn't control my tears. I was crying so much because Adolfo was the nicest person you would ever meet. He was so full of energy, and I would see him going around campus. He would be like, you're everywhere. I'd be like, no, you are everywhere, because he was just everywhere. He was in every committee. He was moving around campus. He was always doing something. And I feel so bad about what happened, and I just hope his kids take solace in all the wonderful things they've said about him and the wonderful life he lived. My dream was to become a software engineer, but right now I think my dream is to be like Adolfo.
Thank you very much.
May I say a couple of words?
Yes.
We sometimes don't thank people enough when they're alive. And there are many people at SBCC who have equally touched people. So I think as a community, we need to figure out ways to appreciate people for the amazing things that they do that we don't get to hear about. And I think, we need to figure out a way to recognize people, when they're alive. And I can tell you that SBCC has lots of people that fall in that category who needs to be recognized. And I'm hoping that we'll find ways to do that this semester, before the semester is out.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you, everybody, for their comments. Our let me go back. We also have, under item 11.4, whether there are any reports from our legislative liaison. We heard that. And also from the SBCC Foundation representative. Is there anything that you would like to report in that regard?
There are meetings coming up in the very near future, but they're not this week or last week, so I will be, and there's an orientation meeting coming up for new board members, which I guess I would be one. So I've received invitations, and they've been very outgoing, extensive. They extended a hand, and I'll tell you when I have something to report. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And Trustee Gallardo, is there anything else that you would like to report?
Well, the dual enrollment webinar, and so it's online, so I'll just email it to you guys, because I think it's worth looking at the slides specifically. It was Oakland Unified School District and Compton Unified, and they've done a lot of really creative things with their CCAP courses, which directly transitions into that CTE and just really getting people into work. And the idea, I think Dr. Beebe wrote that article in one of the Independent or something, that some college is better than no college. And so CTE is truly a pathway to other careers or advanced degrees later. So I'll email you guys that so you guys can watch it and look through some of the slides. It was put on by EdSource. It was the wheelhouse.
Thank you for those comments. Move to item 12, items for future board consideration. Are there any items that anybody wants to mention at this point that we need to add for our next meeting? Our next meeting is a study session, right? Hearing none, before I ask for a motion to adjourn to closed session, I would note for the record that we have 3 items to discuss in closed session. One is public employee discipline dismissal release under Government Code Section 54957. Number 2, public employee performance evaluation, Government Code Section 54957B1, title Superintendent President. Number 3, conference with labor negotiators, Government Code Section 54957.6, employee organizations, faculty association, district negotiators, Dr. Goswami, Michael Shanahan, and Lindsay Moss. So having said that for the record, is there a motion to adjourn to closed session?
So
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Trustee Haslam, seconded by Trustee Nielsen. Any comment? None. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. We will move to closed session.